What's up, family, friends, and foes? It's your girl, Philly Cigar Jawn.
And your guy, Chief, bringing you another episode of Sticks, Brims, and Stilettos. So you know what time it is. Grab your glasses and your sticks, and let's get ready to smoke another hot topic. Welcome back, family. Hey, Philly, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Chief, how are you?
I'm doing good. You looking lovely with those stilettos on this evening.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, these little things here.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold up. Oh, those are the red bottoms. Well, they look lovely.
Thank you. And I love that hat that's on your head today. So what is that?
Well, thank you. This is another Angela and William custom made.
Nice.
Hat. But who knows? Today, I might be trading up.
I think it's about that time.
It is that time.
Let's get into another crazy story time. Check this out.
That's awesome that you just called the cops on me for existing.
A Pennsylvania state trooper has been arrested for allegedly restraining a woman and having her improperly committed to a mental health facility. The district attorney of Dauphin County says this video shows Ronald Davis, while off duty, using substantial force against a woman who begged him to be released.
4 months after meeting you, I get tackled.
According to the affidavit, Davis admitted the woman was his ex-girlfriend. The district attorney says he also has a wife and children. Investigators also allege he obtained an involuntary commitment for the woman under the Mental Health Procedures Act after revealing text messages between him and the woman, which he claimed showed that she was suicidal. An investigation by state troopers alleges that Davis omitted context of the conversation in order to obtain the commitment authorization. The woman was involuntarily committed to a hospital for 5 days before it was determined that she was rational and the commitment was improper. Davis is charged with strangulation, unlawful restraint causing serious bodily injury, false imprisonment, simple assault, official oppression, and reckless endangerment. He's been suspended without pay from his job.
Well, Philly.
I got to steal a Kevin Samuels line.
God damn it! You can't make this shit up.
Yo, now you talking about who should have been committed? Because definitely not her.
The police officer should have been committed.
Absolutely. Now, how in the world are you going to fake a report to have your ex-girlfriend committed to a psych center because she don't want to be with you anymore?
Yeah.
But wait, it's more. Not only that, on top of that, you're married.
Married.
Are you kidding me? It doesn't get any crazier.
Married and home. And trying to get the girlfriend committed.
Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Listen, I'm telling you, like you said, they get crazier and crazier every single week.
Every single week.
I got a woosah for that one.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're back.
And we're back. And we want to mention that this show is brought to you by our sponsor, Huck Spirits. We appreciate Huck Spirits being our first sponsor of Sticks, Brims, and Stilettos. You can log on to huckspirits.com. I know that there's a package right now, package deal when you buy multiple bottles of the Huck Sangria. Make sure you enter your code SBS when you check out. You'll get some money off on your order when you put in the promo code SBS when you order your multiple bottles of Huck Spirits Sangria.
Yeah, and men and women, all our family out there, I am telling you, once you taste this sangria, you will never want to taste another one. 40% alcohol?
Yeah, 40% alcohol by volume.
40%.
Yes.
So you might want to get into it, especially for the holiday season.
Absolutely. Get your holiday gift packing. And it makes a great gift as well.
Absolutely. It does. Cherry bourbon is my favorite. What's your favorite?
All of them.
All of Great answer.
My favorite is all of them.
So with that, when we come back, we have a special treat for you all, and especially for Mr. Chief.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. So welcome back, SBS family. As promised, we have a special gold chair guest in the house tonight. And right now, we are going to introduce to you Mr. Jorge, who is the owner of, and let me know if I'm not pronouncing it
Let's hear
right,
it.
Ala Ancha Hat Company.
Correct. Perfect.
Ala Ancha Hat Company. So thank you for being here, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, appreciate you.
Appreciate you for sure.
And as our audience can see, some of the creations are sitting on the table.
Yes.
So
That I'm going to steal one once the show is over.
yeah, they are very, very nice. So let's get into it a little bit. So let's tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
So first of all, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This is a great opportunity. This is, you could call this coming out of the darkness for me. One of the reasons why my go by name or my nickname is La Sombra, which means the shadow. I remain behind the shadows. Whenever I'm making my hats, you never see pictures of me. You never see videos. In my videos, my face is not in it. I want to showcase my art. But here, right, the cat is out of the bag.
Yes, it is.
Now you see my
The
feet,
big
put a
reveal.
face to it. But Ala Ancha Hat Company just came out of a vision that I had basically for myself to start with. I wanted, as a hat wearer, to be able to make the hats that I want to wear based on the specifications that I want, on the themes that I want. And I knew that the only way to achieve that was to kind of learn the craft myself. So I will say this was through abandon, basically just not caring about how much do I know about it, how many resources do I need. I just went ahead and started doing it. Again, at first, selfish, just because I wanted to make myself hats. I have a hat problem. I don't know if y'all have
I
noticed.
have a shoe problem. So I understand.
Do you understand what I'm talking about? There's people that have sneakers problems.
Right,
I have friends
right.
of mine that have like whole rooms in their house dedicated to sneakers. In my case, my hat started encroaching upon the storage space in my house. So I'm like, of course, as it gets more costly, I'm like, I have always been curious about the art of making hats. And I started doing it. And it just so happens that as soon as I start doing it for myself, people want me to make them one.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So I can say today that the majority, I would say 98% of all that I have made has gone out to customers. I haven't really been able to keep many hats, which is fine by me because this journey has taken me through learning.
That's a good hat problem to have.
Yes,
it
yes.
is.
I have my customers afford me the opportunity for me to grow my skill.
That's good. So before we get in real deep into the hat making process, give us a little bit about your background.
My background. So I was born in the beautiful island of Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
I was born and raised in Puerto Rico until I joined the military. I joined the Air Force back in 2002.
Okay.
And that 21-year journey saw me being sent everywhere, all kinds of places, had all different kinds of jobs, was an aircraft maintainer, was a military training instructor, many things, ceremonial guardsman. I got to say that my career was a fruitful one. I got a lot out of it, right? Just like anybody who has served knows that, they get their pound of flesh out of you too, right? You got to have you go through your sacrifices and all your moves and all that. But that is really where I grew up as a man, was in the military. I joined at 17 years old, right? So that journey took me through all the places and all the experiences that kind of eventually somehow lead up to this point that I'm at right now.
All right.
I retired from the service last month.
Congratulations.
And thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
service.
And thank you for your service.
I appreciate you. Yeah, and it so happens, right? I don't believe there's any chances in life, but it so happens that in a very timely manner, I found a passion, or I discovered a skill that I had for a passion that I've had for years, which is the wearing of hats and customization of hats. So.
Les presento a mi hermoso Tijuana.
proceso. El camino del guerrero es de respeto. Era niño y caminaba por las calles. No creían que mi sueño era muy grande. En la vida sobra todo menos tiempo. Y los sueños nunca son inalcanzables. Pronto me abrí camino en lugares muy grandes, lugares de sueño. Llegué a la cima y con esto no estoy satisfecho. Seguimos creciendo.
Well, that's good stuff. So, I want to add that we have something in common. We both are Air Force veterans.
That's right.
And to go even deeper, we're both former members of the Air Force Ceremonial Guard,
Yes.
also known as Air Force Presidential Honor Guard.
Correct.
Where I also served as a member. So,
Yes.
again, yeah.
Yeah, it's a very small world. Anybody that has been in the military always talks about, oh, you know, the Air Force is so small and all that. But even people that you don't meet in the military, you later find out that you maybe walked similar paths.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that connection is pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, listen, when we take a look at your hats that are on the table here, let's talk about what goes into making a hat. And are there ever any two hats the same, or are they all different when you finish?
I will start by answering the second question. No two hats will ever be the same.
Okay.
Anything that is handmade, doesn't matter what it is, a hat, a rug, a shirt, it is impossible to replicate human manual labor twice. It's always going to be slightly different. In the case of my hats, I am intentionally different because I seek to build a new project with each client. I want the hat to be able to speak to them and their personality and have it built on a vision that they have of what they would like to wear. We got to understand that wearing a hat is pretty personal. It is the only article of clothing that goes on your head. It becomes a part of your face. When people remember you as a hat wearer, they will always remember you with a hat. As a matter of fact, you probably have had it happen before where you go to a place maybe without wearing your hat and they don't recognize you. Right?
I've had that happen.
So
Recently.
It is a very personal article of clothing. So people are a lot more discerning when it comes to that. They want it to actually speak to them. They don't want to be wearing a hat that looks like somebody else should be wearing it. So no two hats are the same. However, when it comes to the process, right, the process is very similar for all hats because at the end of the day, the art of hat making is very old, right? The art of hat making, depending on what country you are talking about, can go back thousands of years, right? And every civilization has had its own iterations of what they use hats for, right? Right now, what you and I see more of a luxury item in certain civilizations and points in time and even occupations, it's actually a tool for work, right?
Yeah.
Even in the military, right? You got to wear a cover, right?
Yep.
So there is a deep history and relationship that people have had with hats. For me, I always use, I start from the bottom. I start from zero. So I take a piece of felt that might or might not be the color that is requested. Sometimes I dye the felt. I do whatever needs to be done prior to starting the process so that it looks the way it needs to look. From there, it is the blocking process. And for people out there that might be into millinery or hat making in general, the basic process of hat blocking and steaming and all that is all the same. What changes is the design phase once you have a product that you can build into a hat. And like I said, if you look through my Instagram, which by the way, it's the only place where my hat shop actually lives, is in Instagram. You will look and see that every design that I have is radically different from the other. And what I have done is I have tried to see what limits I can take the shaping of felt to. Because that's, at the end of the day, this is what it all comes down to. The shaping of felt, and that felt is built from animal hair.
Got you.
Rabbit fur, beaver fur. So beyond that, the sky is the limit. When people ask me, hey, Can you do this shape? Can you do this color? Can we do this to the brim? Can the brim be short, medium, large? There's no limits.
So you're not getting in mass hats that are already formed and then designing these hats. You're actually speaking to making these hats from scratch.
From scratch, yeah. I'm not a hat customizer, and there's a lot of people out there that customize hats, right? Just like there's a lot of people that might buy, let's say, a pair of boots or sneakers and customize them, right? Paint them or whatever. There's a market for that, for sure. In my case, I create my hats from scratch. It'll be a raw piece of felt.
So let me jump in with one question. So, a la ancha?
A la ancha, yes.
So, I know that means brimmed. I did my little research in Spanish, right? So, you talked about how each hat is unique. And I just want to know, when you're designing a hat, and I know you started because you're passionate about hats. When you're in that designing phase, what inspires you to make a specific design? Is it in the moment? Is it predetermined? Or is it a little bit of both?
So, okay. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into this. I don't really believe there's a lot of what we consider original ideas is really ideas that come to your mind because of information you have received.
Right.
You might have seen things in life that you don't necessarily directly recall, but it comes to your mind when you're doing something, right? I draw inspiration from Western movies. I draw inspiration from gangster movies. I draw inspiration from hats that I have purchased for myself before. Sometimes my clients give me inspiration through pictures that they send me. They say, hey, I saw this really cool hat. Look at this. And what I do is I try to either build on that or make a new version of something that has not been considered that exact same way.
Right.
And what has happened is I create some unique pieces that people go like, I have never seen a hat like that before. Well, but that hat really is a combination of many ideas that probably each of them individually have appeared in other hats, but that together they form something completely different. And I say that because we have to be honest as artists when people are creating music or whatever. You do a lot of sampling, right? Because I did not invent the hat. The hat has been worn for way, way longer than I've been alive. But that inspiration that you draw from different ideas and different people. Some people, they come to me and they say, hey, make me a hat for me. And then I see pictures of how they dress. I look at the circles that they hang out in. And that gives me an idea for what kind of attitude or persona we want to present with the hat.
I love it. All right. So sticking with the theme of personalization. So, certain brands, when you see it, you know exactly what it is. So, Christian Louboutin, the sole is red.
Yes, red bottom.
Is it a specific symbol on your hats that identify your brand?
Most definitely. So, a la ancha. I'm gonna make the long story short. The name of a la ancha comes from a song that I grew up listening to. It is a very famous salsa song from way back in the day, probably from the 70s. There's this artist called Ruben Blades, or Ruben Blades, as other non-Spanish speaking people know him as. He made a song called Pedro Navaja, and in that song he's telling a story of this street gangster and how he's dressed, and he describes him wearing an a la ancha hat, or a wide brimmed hat, right? And so as soon as I started making hats, I always kept on thinking about the wide brim that he mentions in his song. And I'm like, well, that is a good callback to my culture and things that I grew up with, right? But then I'm like, okay, what do I use to signify or to signal what my brand is? And an A was the obvious thing. So it is the beginning, the first letter of a la ancha. It has two A's in it at the beginning of each word. And a capital A, looks like a hat. It kind of came into focus immediately that it kind of talks to each other, right? So then I'm like, okay, so how can I brand this into my hats? And if you look at I mean, I have this one that I'm wearing. I always burn.
I see.
I burn
Yeah.
the A
Hot. I love it.
on the bottom of the brim.
I'm still that hat.
So, and so that is a quick signature right there. I do it by hand with a hot knife every time. So you could look at two different hats of mine that I make, and the A is not going to be the
Always
exact
unique.
same on each one.
Oh, that's awesome. Speaking of when you talk about culture, do you see differences cross-culturally when it comes to hats, style of hat design? Can you talk about that a little bit?
Most certainly. So if you, depending on what culture, what part of the world you're talking about, hats mean different things. There are certain hats, for example, the gaucho hat, which is a hat that is very common in Argentina. It goes with the Argentinian culture, but also part of it is associated with certain occupations. You have hats all around the world that are immediate indicators of that culture, right? Yes, the differences are broad, just like with any other article of clothing, and even the implications as to what it means to wear a hat. For example, you and I might wear this type of hat as a way to upgrade our style or our wardrobe whenever going out somewhere. Whereas in other places in the world, wearing a hat might be seen as, hey, you are an outside worker. You're a person that works outside, right? It might be associated with blue collar workers, not with a person that buys luxury, right? Okay. So it all depends on where you go. But I think that one thing that the hat wearing community in fashion has in common around the world is that the idea behind wearing a hat has changed overall over time. It has gone to more utilitarian, like I'm trying to be practical because I work under the sun, to I want to complete the mission of building an outfit.
Gotcha.
Right? We had that back in up until like the 1950s. If you look at old video and pictures of New York City, of Chicago, or whatever, a hat was part of the outfit. As a matter of fact, old dry cleaners had hat blocks because you could drop off your suit and your hat, and they would reblock and reshape your hat for you. That was a service that used to be provided, right? So I would say it ebbs and flow. If you look at ancient cultures and their leaders, right, whether it be the pharaoh or whoever was the leader of that nation, there usually was some kind of hat being worn by people that had high power. To this day, the Pope wears a hat, right? So the culture and history of that is as varied, I would think, as any other thing in fashion.
Wow, it's a lot.
Yeah. So I want to go back to your passion for hats. So you said you really got into the hat making business because of your passion. So when you really started to get into the business, what were some of your roadblocks that you experienced, and how did you overcome those roadblocks?
Okay, well, let's just say that the only roadblocks that I have had so far have been self-imposed, as far as how far do you want to take this, right? I haven't had any real roadblock because what I am making, what I'm creating with my hands, is something that I have done as people have requested, right?
Gotcha.
So I don't have a stock of hats. Some people hit me up and they say, hey, what is the price of this hat? Or do you have this in a certain size? I don't, because I make each one to the specifications of my clients. So I wouldn't say there's any roadblocks. I would say there's an open road. The question is, to what extent do I want to grow this, right? Because immediately the questions come up of, expanding, right? And then we start getting into the idea of mass production, which you can buy hats a dime a dozen, mass produced. But how many articles of clothing do you buy that you know the person that made them from beginning to end? That's really what people are paying for. Right. And I think that now, even though we have younger generations of individuals who don't understand, maybe didn't live in a time period where they wore hats. Now people are starting to show more interest for custom made things. People want to be more individual.
Yep.
People don't like to, if you remember back in the 90s or whatever, if you were wearing a certain brand, right? Oh, it was no problem with 50 people in your school wearing the same brand because that's what was in.
Right.
Now what's in is more individuality.
Right.
If you're wearing the same thing that 50 other people are wearing, that's not really attractive.
Right.
When
And
it
as
comes
a
to
woman,
fashion.
we hate to see another woman with our same outfit on when we're out thinking we're cute, because that has happened to me. And that's not a good look. So I understand what you're saying.
And so if you find individuals that can make you something that only you are wearing, that has value to it. It has a personal value to it.
I agree with that. Let me ask you this, Jorge. What is your average time, start to finish, when you're creating one of your masterpieces?
So thank you for calling them masterpieces, by the way. I will say that there is no average time because, of course, every project is wild. It varies in scope. But I can give you the range. I can make a hat anywhere from between 2 hours of work and 15 hours of work.
Okay.
Now that I always have to split. I always have to clarify the fact that I cannot make a hat from cradle to grave in one day, because the blocking process itself requires for the felt to be wet, and I have to let it dry. You can't really speed that process up. I am sure that in the mass production world of hats, they put them through ovens and other things to speed up that process. But in the handmade, customized arena, you have to let things dry. But once that process, necessary process happens, it can be anywhere from a couple of hours of work to 15 hours of work, split over the course of a couple of weeks, right? Because you're talking about intricate design. You're talking about materials that you have to source. Maybe the client has a very specific thing they're looking for, and you have to get that thing made or fabricated to be able to implement it. So it depends.
So with that, I guess my next question would be, when you talk about there's a range for getting those complete, it's a two-part question. Are you ever simultaneously working on multiple hat projects? So the answer to that is yes, you're shaking your head. And then two, tell our audience if they're interested in purchasing one of these masterpieces, what range they're going to be looking at in terms of price.
Gotcha. So, yes, when it comes to, can you repeat the first question?
Yeah, do you work on multiple projects at the same time?
Yes. So, normally I have anywhere from 10 to 20 hats going at the same time. Now, that is, of course, because of the demand. Like if I usually have 20 or 30 people on queue. So I'm going to start blocking hats. However, working on the final design of a hat, I usually do no more than 2 or 3 at a time, where I have them all at the same stage of creating the shapes and the designs that I want. When it comes to price range, right now I start at $400. The only thing anybody has to pay me for me to start working for them is $150 deposit, and they get on the list, and I start working it. Right now, anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks for a turnaround. That way I can, get that delivered. My prices include shipping too within the U.S. And I usually ship my hats so that they're there within 3 to 5 business days. But the range is normally between $400 to $600. Of course, that can always vary, because there can be somebody that says, "Hey, I want you to create this crazy thing," right? And depending on how much goes into it as far as materials, the price might go way high. But yeah, I would say the baseline will end up being, after, considering the taxes and all that, about $400 and up from there.
So I have a question about your customers. What percentage of customers are women that order your hats? And do you see an increase of women wearing hats?
So yes, there is an increase of women. I have seen it in the ordering process, people that hit me up. I would still say that it's about 80-20.
Okay.
when it comes to percentage. It's 80% men, about 20% women. However, what I have noticed is, and this is just a very cultural thing, the fedora in general, like the fedora hat, which is the traditional shaped hat that we are used to seeing, whether it is wide brim or short brimmed, those hats have traditionally been seen as men's fashion items. However, any fedora is unisex. And I have seen that if you look, open up any kind of fashion magazine, women's fashion, you might see women in there wearing hats that when you look at that hat and you separate it from the face, you could have a man wearing that hat. And similarly, you see men like the hat that I'm wearing right now. There's women that have requested this hat. So really, I think there's a cultural thing behind who is supposed to wear what. That is, I guess it's finally starting to go away, right? But I think that the world of custom-made clothing, especially hats, is kind of giving the freedom to maybe a woman who thought, oh, that would only be worn by a man. They would now be like, oh, that would look good with an outfit that I have. And more women are doing that. But like I said, it's still a majority of men.
Men, right. Okay.
So let's talk about the pieces that we have on the table here.
All right.
So if you want to take us through and
For
kind of
sure.
tell us a little bit about the craftsmanship and the process and what you did for each and what inspired each one of those.
So let me start with this one. This is, first of all of my pieces are my favorite, right? So I don't have one that I like more than the others.
You're biased.
But this one right here is called the cross. Now, as you can notice on the crown, I actually shaped a cross into it, right?
Yeah.
And I put some distressing on it so that you could basically see. A lot of the a hat is a four-dimensional thing, right? It has an inside, it has depth. You want to be able to see every part of the design. So I put different dyes and paints and stains so that you could kind of see the depth of the design. This hat, I wanted to go with a kind of like a teal color theme, right? So as you notice, I kind of make those accents the same. The feather used to be black, and I just spray painted it. I try to apply paints and dyes in a way that works for that specific item. Not everything takes well to just spraying or airbrushing.
Right.
So, but in this case, right, I even have a hat tool here by Cigar Dagger. Shout out to the people from Cigar Dagger who make outstanding cigar aficionado tools out there. I found one that has the same color pattern, so I decided to integrate it in there. As you can see down here, I actually hand cut out the shape of a cross from the brim, right?
Yes, I see that.
That is something that can be done in any hat. Right. In this case, I was trying to kind of accentuate the theme of the cross on the hat. Outside of that, I mean, the sky is the limit. So this ribbon that you see here, this is one piece of ribbon that is actually sewn around the hat 3 times. That is all handmade, hand cut. The inside of the hat has a liner and a leather sweatband. That all is hand measured, hand cut, hand sewn. There is no part of this hat that has gone through a machine.
Gotcha.
This is all handmade. And the process for, like, the creative process for making it, I just thought about it and made it up as I went. Because I don't try to fool my clients into thinking, oh, I have a perfect recipe for that. Sometimes I make an initial design and I might photograph it or put it on paper, and it ends up being something completely different.
Awesome.
Before you go on to the other two, because I love that hat. First of all, that's my favorite color. Green. No, the green. The cross.
This one. Yes. Gotcha.
The cross. So how much would that hat cost? Like if someone wanted to order
if you wanted a replica
cross,
of this hat?
A replica of the cross.
About $550.
You hear that, Chief?
I hear
nice
that.
Christmas gift.
I hear that, Philly.
I love
I hear that,
hat.
Philly.
Yeah, and what drives, I mean, just like anything else, right? What drives the cost up more is usually not just materials, but labor as well.
Yes.
To get a design in felt to stick, right? To actually not move, because you can make anything look good for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
That has to stand the test of time and wear.
Yeah.
To be able to have felt do that for you is many different passes, many different sessions with it. So that means many different hours, many different days.
Right.
So it's a lot more labor intensive.
All right. Well, for the sake of time, I am going to go to another hat that we have here today before we move any further. So we want to talk about this next hat.
So this next hat, this is the second iteration I have from an original idea that I came up with long before I started making hats, which was, how do I, as a cigar smoker, wear a hat that can also functionally serve as a cigar holder? And I thought about this many different times over the years. I thought about, what if one time I took like a piece of a coat hanger, and I made a loop on it so that I could install it on the band of the hat and maybe hold it there. But it always ended up being something external to the hat. And one day, as I am handling, once you get the feel for felt, you kind of get more of an idea of what it can do. And I'm like, I bet you that if I soften the felt enough to make a roll into it, the size of the traditional size of cigars, so maybe a 56 ring gauge, maybe a Robusto, or maybe as far as a Toro, right? Maybe a 60 gauge. The cigars that are most smoked, if I make that roll, it'll probably stay. And so I did it, and I put a cigar in it, and I'm like, this right here is exactly what I had in the back of my mind for so many years. So I created this one staying with the theme of cigar smoking. On this side, you see a lapel pin that is a tobacco leaf, right? The gross grain ribbon is weathered, and I have actually kind of distressed it to have it a look. It should be a gritty look. Us, the individuals that are in the cigar world, right? We are a gritty bunch, right? we are rough around the edges.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? We come from many different walks of life. So it's never going to be a perfect, clean look. Over here, you have the King of Hearts. And if anybody that can see this up close, I don't know if you can show it up close later, but the King is actually holding a stack of cigars.
Oh, wow.
That's hot.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
And so, of course, it has other signature hand burn designs that I make to the hat. And on the other side, of course, as we talked before, I have the A of A La Ancha. And one last special thing that I decided to add into this was that in the leather band, the leather sweatband, I burnt in the name or the nickname of Chief, because this is for my man right here.
That is so hot.
Custom made specifically for your size of head.
Custom made.
Boom.
I'm jealous.
Let's see it on. You gotta put it on.
Jealous.
Yes, sir.
Let's see
I gotta swap it out.
Let's see it. Let's see it. Let's see how I did.
You did.
Okay.
Ooh, that's hot.
All right.
Perfect.
Now we're talking.
I can't see myself in it, but I can see it in her eyes.
Yeah, that makes me happy. That makes me happy.
Don't be jealous. We're gonna get you. We're gonna get you a A La Ancha hat. I like this, man. I really
That
like
is
it.
so freaking unique.
I
man.
love
I
it.
am
When you
so
put
glad
the
that you
cigar
love
in
it.
there.
My most nervous moment anytime that I interact with a new client is the moment they're about to put on the hat for the first time. Because now I know that I acquired your head size through tactical means.
Yeah, you did use military
I
means.
use military means to get your size of your head, but I always have to trust that whatever size I'm given is accurate, because at the end of the day, no matter how cool the hat looks, if it doesn't fit you,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
no good to you.
That's true.
So I always get a low level nervousness when my customers put the hat on for the first time, but it's a magical moment, because once they put it on, it kind of becomes part of them, and that my friend, that goes with you.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. I appreciate the craftsmanship. I appreciate you even thinking about, offering the hat.
Come
to
on,
me as
you're
a
having
gift.
me here. I appreciate
it.
you bringing me here and kind of letting me speak about my craft. This means a lot to me.
Yes, and it means a lot for us, for you to come on and share this with us. And I just want to tell the family a very quick 30-second story. I was at the reunion, me and Philly, for the Air Force unit that I served in. And I'm going to say an elite unit because that's how we see it. It is an elite unit in the Air Force. And I met Jorge, and Jorge stood out because of the hat. And then he had another member that served in the same unit who was wearing a hat, and it happened to be made by Jorge. So I said, no, I got to get with Jorge because the hats are fire. And then when we were putting together the show,
Cleaning house.
They said they're not in the same class.
Cleaning house. Okay.
So anyway, that's the quick story. And man, we're so grateful for you to come on, and I'm extremely grateful for you, giving me the hat. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
It's only right. I think that if we kind of come together and show what people are doing out there by hand, we realize that a lot of times in our own circles, we have a lot of talented people that can, make you something that you're going to treasure. These are family heirlooms. A lot of people don't realize. I have friends of mine that have hats that belong to their great-grandfathers.
Wow.
Yes.
And so this can be something that you pass on for generations.
And I appreciate it. And I'm going to tell you what else I appreciate. He answered on the first call.
My man.
No. It's something to that,
It's
man. For
something
real,
to that,
it's something
for
to that when you want to collaborate with folks and you reach out to them. And the crazy thing is, we didn't even though we served in the same unit, we didn't even really know each other personally. But I just appreciate that means measures to us, doing the show. That when I called you, you answered. And
can I say? That was an excellent call.
Yeah, it was an excellent call. Yep. So, Philly has a question that she asks every guest that comes on our show. So
yes, so you are an aficionado of the cigar.
Yes, I like to think so.
So I always ask the guests, so tell me when you fell in love with the cig, and where were you? What was the occasion?
Yep, that's an easy question for me to answer. I was actually visiting some friends in Florida, and he and I served in Afghanistan at separate times in our careers. He left the Air Force long before I did, but this time that I went to his house, he had by that time I had already been smoking cigars for years, but he brought out a box of Monte Cristo number 2s from Cuba, right? And there was a very specific year because they had actually been aged already for about 7 years, which Cuban tobacco hits its prime from between 7 to 9 years, as it is written out there, right? Not that I'm a scientist or anything, but it happened to be in that range. And I remember smoking that, and the company of my friend mixed with that. I'm like, this is a special thing. This cigar is a special thing. And to this day, when anybody asks me which one is your favorite cigar, I always get very specific with it. It is a Monte Cristo number 2 that is aged 7 to 9 years.
Wow.
Okay.
And so, I would say that, my love affair with tobacco started way before that. But if you ask me to pinpoint a cigar experience that actually kind of left an imprint, that would have to be it. That's a good question. You ask that of every guest?
Yes, I do.
Every guest.
That's an important moment.
That's very important.
Yes.
But what's more important is, where can the SBS family find and buy your masterpieces?
So as I said before, my business lives completely in social media.
Okay.
And so more specifically on Instagram, go find A La Ancha Hat Co. I know that probably at the end of the show you can show the QR code. But when you get there, this is the thing. It's not a store where you have a cart online and you can put things in the cart. No, the only way to get a hat from me is to contact me directly through the direct messaging. There is nobody else in this company, meaning when you send a message, I'm the one that sees it. And you have to work directly with me.
Okay.
So we go over the whole conversation and the whole process one-on-one with each client.
Awesome. That's good. And I think people appreciate when they get the person, when they get the person who's actually going to be creating the masterpiece that they're going to be spending some money on. They are definitely unique masterpieces.
Beautiful.
This one is feeling good on my head already.
It looks great. Rub it in.
It looks great.
Can't wait to look in the mirror. The audience, y'all, you all in the audience.
What we should have done is I should have brought a cigar to put it in there.
Well, guess what?
We have one.
I have a cigar.
Oh, hold on. Okay. All right.
Okay. Right.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Let's see it. I want to see real time how you put that thing
All right.
in the holder. Let's see.
All right, for the audience. I love the card on the side.
I love it.
Oh,
boom.
That is
fits
like a glove.
Perfect.
Like a glove.
Fits.
Let's
perfect.
go. And then when you go out and let's say you're going to a place where you only are planning on smoking one cigar, but you don't want to bring your entire humidor.
Right.
You walk in, you don't have it in your pocket. People don't put cigars in their pocket. No. Where is your cigar coming from? My hat.
It's coming from the brim.
And you just
in line.
Sticks,
with the show.
And stilettos.
Sticks, brims, and stilettos.
I love it.
You can't bring it together any better than that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for, again, coming on. And we're going to ensure that our audience gets all of the information to contact you. Definitely want to go to his Instagram and check it out. I'm telling you now, the hats are fire. Right? I'm just telling you now. Again, a mutual member of the Air Force that I served with, I was reaching out. I was like, I got to get a hold of your guy. Not just to get some hats, but I got to have him on the show. Right? Because I know that members of our audience, Sticks, Brims, and Stilettos audience would definitely be interested in purchasing some of these masterpiece brims.
And before you go, now I know you said your typical time is 4 to 6 weeks. Now we're getting into the holiday time because I'm sure you're going to get an influx of requests.
Yes.
Now, does that time extend out during the holiday season?
It might. It also depends on the type of project that I'm commissioned for, right? So there are some projects that are less intricate than others. There are people that they're looking for a more classic piece. They're not looking for anything. They don't want a lot on their hats. Also, there are people who they say, I need my hat yesterday. I'm not going to pay you a deposit. You tell me what the full amount is. I want to be in the front of the line. And I deal with those individually as well. So it all depends. I've had people say, my birthday is next week and I want this hat for my birthday.
Yes.
We can make it happen.
Oh, okay.
And I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question because it was on my mind earlier. Is there a unique hat that you've made for a unique individual that might be a celebrity type or someone like that? Something that you can remember.
Yeah, actually.
He made it for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So that's the
outside
first.
of Chief. Outside of Chief.
So there is an influencer back home in Puerto Rico. He's a YouTube personality. He is into the world also of fashion. He has a podcast that he's a part of. Has a really good following back home in Puerto Rico and in Latin America in general. I made for a hat for him that was an absolute hit with the audiences, right? And actually, I have to, thank him for exposing my art to my people back home because I no longer live in Puerto Rico. His name is Realengo. And you can look him up on all platforms. It's all Spanish speaking, of course. So
right.
that is the audience as far as language. But yeah, that's just one individual. I have made hats for other people that you could say are in those areas of society, but nobody really famous yet. If you ask me, like the Cam Newtons of the world and all that. Right. Eventually,
you're gonna get there.
Eventually, that might happen.
It will.
So Cam, we know you're watching.
It will.
So go ahead and order yourself a hat from Alejandra. Well, again, thank you again, man. We in Philly, we both thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank
you.
Thank you.
Y'all are great.
Yes. Appreciate it.
And you can just leave these here. Thank
you. Sure. For a nominal fee.
No, thank you for being on the show. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And to our audience, you see right here on the screen where you can order your hat from Alejandra. And once again, Philly, it's about that time.